Hi everybody, today we're going to have a look at the warning lights that you get up on your dashboard when you turn your ignition on and what those actually refer to in the vehicle. Today's video was a suggestion from Donald, thank you very much. One of our customers had a little issue with his vehicle and said it would be a really good idea to have a video on this subject, so completely agree with you, thank you very much for the suggestion. So this is why we've done today's video. Let's get into it. With your warning lights on the dash, there's primarily 4 different colours which they use: red, orange, white and green, and they all simplify different things, but just to give you an idea what most of the dashboard lights are doing. So when you turn your key into the ignition, most of your dashboard lights all come up, and they're the ones we're going to go through with you now. And the reason they come on is because the vehicle's checking each of the different components as it goes through with the startup of the vehicle. So airbag, for example, I'll show you that one in a minute. That's doing a check on the airbag system. It checks it all okay, light goes off, for example, that's there. Now all of those are generally orange warning lights, which means that if you were to get one on when you were driving, or there was one on when it shouldn't be on, so after you started the vehicle, it's basically telling you there's a fault with the vehicle and it needs to be looked at sooner rather than later. And obviously you go and get that vehicle booked in, or if you're concerned about it, you can phone your breakdown and get them to come out and have a look at the vehicle. If you see a red light, this is vitally important, a red light, red means stop. It's a traffic light system, the same kind of thing. So the red light is to stop. So things like, for example, your oil pressure warning light is a good indication. It's a good time to stop because there's probably something wrong with the engine, or oil pressure is a good example. If there's no oil pressure in there, you could damage the engine. It could be something simple, but the point is it's a red symbol, so really you need to stop the vehicle, pull over to the side of the road and phone the breakdown. That might sound quite simplistic in the way we've said that, so but basically that's pretty much how it's intended to be. And finally, we're not covering every single light on that's here, but it is worth mentioning that all these are listed in the handbook, so there's a whole page dedicated to them all. So if you find anything that's on your dash that you're not sure about or why it's on there, that's the place to look. We're going to cover the main dashboard first, and then we'll look at the 2 outside panels on the dash as well. Obviously this is a California Ocean, so it has got the digital dash that's here, so it's slightly different in the layout, but if you've got a standard dashboard in your vehicle, if you've got a T6 or a T5, something like that, the symbols are basically the same. They might be in a slightly different place it's in there, but they are generally the same symbols. So starting on the far side is the airbag warning light. Again, looks like an airbag going off and somebody sitting in the seat that's doing the check on the vehicle, so that's a quite easy one to work out. Next to that is your ABS light, which is your ABS, your anti-lock braking system that's there, and next to that is your ESP, your electronic stability program. And obviously that and the ABS system work very closely together. Then we move on, we've got 2 red lights. Now one red light is to do with the foot brake. So that's a red light because at the moment you can't start the vehicle. So to start the vehicle you have to put your foot on the brake, and then that would allow the vehicle to start, which is why it's red. And then the following on from there is the steering fault, which again is a red light. As you can imagine, if you've got a problem with your steering that was coming upon your light, obviously you would need to stop the vehicle pretty quick. That's on there as well, and that's the next one. As we move into the middle of the dash, we've got the seatbelt warning light. Now again, the seatbelt one is in red because obviously if you haven't got your seatbelt on and there's somebody in the seat, that's quite dangerous, so that's why it's in red. And then next to that is an amber one, and this one is to do with your tyre inflation, your tyre pressure monitoring system. Now depending on which type you've got in your vehicle would bring this on. We are going to do a separate video shortly on tyre pressure monitoring, because on the 6.1 now there's 2 different variations of that which you can get, but that will be the symbol to tell you that you've got a loss of pressure on one of your particular tyres. Alternatively, it does sometimes come on and check all your tyre pressures if you haven't been checked for a little while. And then finally, on the actual electronic part of the dash here, moving right over to the right hand side, is the final one, which is to do with the braking system, which is the RAM with an exclamation mark in the middle, and that's basically saying you've got a brake fault. And again, as you can imagine, that's in red because braking obviously is an integrated part of the vehicle. We're now going to move on to the ones that are actually outside the not part of the main dashboard. So we're looking at just underneath the fuel gauge on this side, and then we'll move on to the other side. So as you can see on this at the bottom here, that's your what people refer to as the engine management light. It's actually saying that there's a fault with the exhaust system. That's what the in the book it actually says from there, but that is the light that generally comes on if you have got a fault with your engine management system. I mean, hopefully you don't see any of these lights come up, but the exhaust gas one is probably the one that you would see come up more than the others, or more likely to, because generally speaking that's where most of the problems that are detected in a vehicle can be detected through that system. So as you can imagine, if there's a problem actually with in the engine, a lot of how it detects whether there's a problem with that obviously is detected via the sensors in the actual exhaust system. So it has the fuel that's come through the vehicle and goes up and down into the exhaust system as well that's in there, which is why I tend to find that light does come on as well. And then as we move on to the opposite side, back again, we've got the triangle one again, which is in red, and that's to do with your central warning lamp. It's mainly to do with things like coolant that's there as well, and obviously that's why it's on that coolant side as well. And again, that's a red warning lamp. But just a couple of other symbols that I thought we were worth pointing out to you. Now these are ones that don't always come on to check the system's working, etc., but they are worth noting. And if you have a look in the brochure here, so we've got your engine oil pressure is too low, which is a red one. Obviously if you've got a problem with your alternator, is also in there as well. Other things that you generally see on some, for example, T6s and T5s, that's on here is things like your bulb warning light, so you've got a bulb out. It's on the vehicle. And then also as well, a common light, which we're going to talk more about in a future video, is the particulate filter saturation light. And that's to do with the exhaust system. So these vehicles have a dust particulate filter on them because they're all diesels currently that we do within the range, and that basically stores up all the bad stuff from the exhaust system. I will get a bit more technical for you when we do a video just on that, but just in simplistic terms, it stores it all up and then burns it off under very high temperature. We're going to do a video on that in itself, but it's worth noting what that symbol actually looks like, because when we do the video on it, we'll talk you through what you should do if that light does come on. More relevant at the moment, because obviously people, generally speaking, have been at home for a long periods of time with the vehicles. We're finding tend to be doing less journeys in their vehicles as well, because you might be working from home rather than from the office, and these type of things on diesels, like a longer run, like to be used on the road. But as I said, that's something we're going to cover in a completely separate video, because it's something we haven't really talked about at length now. It's something we've been around for a very long period of time. We keep meaning to do a video on it, on that one, so again, check that out. That'll be coming in the next couple of weeks. I just thought it's worth mentioning again, just to clarify all this. It's perfectly normal, all these lights should come on when you put the key into the ignition and just before you actually turn the engine over. They'll all come on, and then really they should all go back off on that basis as well. And once you've started the vehicle, which you'll do straight away because you jump in and just start it straight off, that's on, they should all then go out. And that basically is saying your vehicle's healthy, it's fine, they've done through all the checks, nothing's come up as being an issue that's on there, and off you go. Now obviously today we've used a 6.1 Ocean that's here with us in the showroom. Obviously if you've not got an Ocean, you've got a Coast for example, or if you've got a T6 Ocean that's in there, or you've got a T5 with an SE, or you've got a Beach, there's a whole range of different Californias that are available on there. You will get slightly different lights that's on there that might not come up on your dash. It might look a little bit different than what we've done to here, but it said the principles are the same. It's about that colour coding that's in there. If you want to know more, have a look at your handbook, have a look at what the warning signs are. The big thing is hopefully for the majority of you never have any of these warning lights come on at all. Obviously vehicles being vehicles, they're mechanical objects, they do occasionally go wrong, but obviously it's also important that you do, if one does go wrong and you get one of those warning lights on, so instead if it's a red one you need to stop, pull over to the side of the road, phone your breakdown assistance. If it's an orange one, it's a warning light, and again it needs to be looked at sooner rather than later, and if you're ever concerned about that, you should again phone your breakdown. Most breakdown companies now, through Volkswagen Assistance, they've got the tools on board to scan to see what the actual fault is. They're not necessarily be able to fix it, but at least they'll be able to give you some confidence with you that's on there as well. You also find as well that what prompted this video in actual fact in the first place was a vehicle actually went into limp mode, into safe mode. Different call it different things, but basically the vehicle just doesn't rev above a certain rev range, so it feels very sluggish, doesn't move very fast on the road, and generally that occurs when the vehicle thinks there's been a problem somewhere. So one of the sensors somewhere thinks, hold on a minute, I need to slow this vehicle down, slow the engine down so that it doesn't cause any more damage. Vehicles nowadays have got sensors all over them, all over the, there's lots of different sensors, lots of different readings that it's taken from there as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean there is, it could be more there's a fault with a sensor that's in there, for example. So one way you can do this, if that does happen to you, for example, is if you pull over to the side of the road, take your key out, and then put your key back in and turn your engine back on again, all those lights and systems are all going to do another check all the way through. And at that point you may even find possibly that the actual light's gone out and your vehicle is pretty much back to as it was normally. Now that would obviously allow you to carry on in your journey that was in there, and those are the type of things that we call a sporadic fault. So it's something which isn't, it's just gone once or twice it's in there, it's put an error code into the vehicle's engine diagnostic machine, so we know that there's been a fault there, but it's not actually happening all the time. It's not a permanent fault. Now again, those things, it does need to be looked at. You need to get it booked into a dealership and just let them have a look and see what that actual fault is, if it's a sporadic fault. Well, I hope you'd enjoyed today's video. It was a snapshot look at the different warning lights that were on your dash. I said the most important thing about this is hopefully you don't get any of these lights on, but if you do, you know what they're for, or you know where to look for, so you can actually find out what they actually are and what they actually mean. As I would always say, if you do get warning lights on your dash, for your own peace of mind, if you're ever unsure about it, you're not sure that's in there, phone your breakdown people that you already have breakdown cover with, and said if that's Volkswagen Assistance, they will come out to you, plug it in and see what it is, and give you some confidence in moving on. Never worry about doing that. If you feel you need to, just go ahead and do it. Just give them a ring and get them to come out and see where they are with it. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have, give us a thumbs up, give us a like. If you don't subscribe, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.